Austin Next Live is here at South by Southwest in the startup showcase. We're here with Micha Breakstone from NeuraLight. Micha, good afternoon.
Thank you so much for having me, Michael. It's a
We're
pleasure.
glad to be here. You've got a very interesting company. No doubt you've got great big markets. Why don't you tell us a little bit about NeuraLight?
Sure. So we were founded about 2 years ago. We raised about $30 million to date, and our mission is to transform the lives of billions of people that suffer from neurodegenerative diseases. We're focused on four indications to begin with: Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, MS, and ALS. We currently have four trials running at top clinical centers across the country. One of the trials is actually an interventional trial with a pharma company working on ALS. We have publishable results. What we do is we use standard video cameras, just like the one we're being filmed with. It could be a smartphone or a laptop camera, as we'll demo in a bit, to monitor micro movements of the eyes, which actually give an ocular signature of the brain, showing what neurodegenerative disease this is and how its progression looks like. The biggest issue today with neurodegenerative diseases is that it's very, very difficult or impossible actually to measure objectively and sensitively the progression of these diseases. It's really a clinical assessment today, and what we're doing is we're bringing in this novel measure that is both objective and sensitive, and we're hoping to become the new gold standard for neurology.
Okay, that's one of the big issues, of course, is objectivity.
Yeah.
I've seen lots of different companies doing lots of different work in various forms of medicine where they compare their systems to a clinician.
Right.
And usually the systems work better because they're more objective and they produce the same results consistently.
Yeah.
Tell me about how your system is able to go ahead and do that.
Yeah, so first maybe I'll answer, or I'll tell you about what happens today. The gold standard today is a battery of questions, right? For Parkinson's, the scale is called the UPDRS. It's a 50 scale question. Each question gets a score by the physician between 0 to 4. One of the questions, believe it or not, is the physician holding the patient, trying to push him over and seeing how much he's resistant, right? And then scoring that as 0 to 4, like, did he fall? Did he not fall? They don't actually let them fall, right? But and then summing up the results, and the result you have is somewhere between 0 and 199. That's how much Parkinson's you have. You can imagine, first of all, it's highly subjective. You'll find an inter-rater variability of about 25%, which means two different physicians looking at the same patient, same day, will disagree with each other 25% of the time. It's very difficult to develop novel drugs for a condition where what you're measuring is so variable. So that's kind of where we come in. And for us, it's a signature basically of eye movements. We look at 106 different ocular parameters, so saccadic, anti-saccadic movement, pupil dilation, blinking rate, etc., etc. And what we're able to do is put together this ocular signature. Think of the eyes as a literally an electrode that is already implanted in the brain. So no need to go through the cranium with EEG. We're literally showing the reactions of the brain in real time to external stimuli, and are able to put together this signature, which is entirely objective, very, very low friction. This can be done on any webcam or on any smartphone camera within minutes, and can be repeated in any environment to get a real-time status of the brain and of the deterioration or the progression of the neurological disorder.
I have to tell you, I have some experience with the existing test methodology. I watched my father take it. One of the questions they asked him was how to drive from one place to another. He was not able to answer. Very simple reason. He had never learned to drive. So that's the kind of subjectivity that comes into these things, because if you don't have experience in that exact situation.
100%, and the stories that you hear are terrible. It is also about progression. It's also about the diagnosis itself. Some of these diseases look very similar early on. So Parkinson's will look very similar to a host of other diseases like PSP and MSA and cerebral ataxia and essential tremor. All of these Parkinsonianisms look very similar early on with very similar symptoms, but they have entirely different etiologies, entirely different pathophysiologies. They will be not responding to the same type of dopaminergic drugs. So out of 1,000 patients going into a cohort of 1,000 patients going into a clinical trial for Parkinson's, you're going to have 250 that won't actually be reacting to the drug no matter what, because they suffer from a different underlying
Exactly.
disease.
Yeah, so let me ask you a question.
Sure.
I had a chance to take the abbreviated demo.
Yeah.
Interesting stuff. And I assume that as the patient-doctor relationship goes forward, that test is going to be given over and over as the patient progresses
100%.
one way or another.
Right.
Now, is this going to end up being something that you're selling the software? Are you going to sell the units? How do you do this?
It's a great question. So at the beginning, we're selling into pharma companies. We're selling our platform in order to create these strategic partnerships to allow them to actually build and design better, more successful clinical trials for CNS diseases. As we gain more and more traction with the FDA, and hopefully at the end also end up being granted regulatory approval, we will obviously be selling the software to physicians, hopefully once it's reimbursable, right? Gain this reimbursable status and position ourselves as truly the new gold standard for these diseases, and to deploy in every clinician's office. So a neurologist, later on GPs, and later on even people from their homes using this to monitor their brain health regularly.
Okay, this is not your first rodeo.
No, it's not.
You've sold a couple of companies before.
Yeah.
This is your third or fourth startup.
Yeah.
You're here at South by Southwest.
Yeah.
How has that been as an experience in the startup space, coming here and displaying at South by Southwest? There's only an audience of 300,000 people here.
It's funny that you asked. So my previous company, I sold my previous company for a published $575 million. Me and my wife were the largest common shareholders, so family office or what have you. So really great outcome. And then we were looking to decide kind of what we want to do next with my life. For me personally, both my grandparents died of dementia, Alzheimer. So the great calling for me personally. But you asked about South by Southwest. So in my previous company, Chorus AI, I was all about these kinds of exhibitions, right? Showing in kind of the more SaaS kind of, or SaaSy kind of. This is a non-standard for a healthcare to do, but we were nominated and made it to finalists here. So we thought it was a good opportunity to tell our story and bring our story, more to the forefront. CNS doesn't always get as much exposure as it should, given that it's literally the number one cause of disability in the world, with over 1 billion people suffering from some sort of neurodegenerative diseases.
But it's much more invisible than some other type of trauma.
100%. And it's older people usually, so it's doesn't get the exposure that it should. Also because as of today, there are really not many disease-modifying treatments out there, which is exactly our mission, to enable this new generation of disease-modifying treatments. So when we were invited here, I'm based in Austin, so it's my hometown. I love it. So we flew out our Chief Innovation Officer, who was previously Global Head of Innovative R&D for Teva Pharmaceuticals, and the head of our business development strategy, and we made a field day out of it, and we're enjoying it a lot, especially taking calls like this.
There you go. You've been in Austin now for a long time. How's the bio scene progressing in Austin?
So we moved here 18 months ago, and the answer is I don't know yet. I've been to a few dinners with some amazing companies, amazing founders. I'm hoping to find out more.